Welcome to the Doghouse Podcast. I'm Jeff Davis.
And I am Fred Williams.
Today we're going to do let me start over. Today we're going to go into a little bit deeper dive on My Pet Credentials and the veterinarian aspect of the app and what that entails.
Hey, don't worry. We're going to touch on the consumer side as well as we will touch a little bit on the pet salon side also. So I am looking forward to this conversation.
We've been doing a lot of touching today.
Yeah, we're going to touch everybody today. We're going to kick off a little segment today. If it is not good enough for me, it is not good enough for my dog.
There you go. So what we have here today is referred to as a Pupachino.
What the hell is a Pupachino?
Now, I'm not really sure what is in a Pupachino, but it sure as hell doesn't look like coffee.
Yeah, it's probably whipped poop or something.
Somebody must have milked a dog.
I don't know, but they must have put some milk in here to make it change color.
Look at that. See, it is milk from a dog. I'm just kidding. I don't think it's milk from a dog.
It's probably milk from a puppy that just had babies.
Oh,
yeah,
that's deep. That's
yeah.
real deep.
Yeah, should be very tasty.
So we're going to give it a shot today, Fred.
Yeah. Are we licking this? Are we? What? It's a shot. I mean, what are we doing?
Can you get to the bottom of it?
That's yeah. It's just straight whipped cream.
That's just whipped cream, man.
That's good. That's good.
I like a Pupachino. I think Pupachinos are free. So can you just go to Starbucks and order just a Pupachino without a dog?
So, bottom line.
That's a good question.
Bottom line. Pupachinos are good for me, so it's good for my dog.
5 stars on the Pupachino. So we'd like to thank our sponsor, which is My Pet Credentials, and little known fact, My Pet Credentials is us.
That's right. We created My Pet Credentials for several reasons. For the consumer, number one, for pet salons, number 2, and for veterinarians. Came about really just because of all the lost dogs that were around that could not be identified. And it kind of blew up into something much bigger. So
yeah, when we originally came up with the idea for My Pet Credentials, it was because our customers that come into the doghouse never have their vaccination records with them. Sometimes they don't even remember who the last vet was that they used. And we realized there was a disconnect between the service provider, the veterinarian, and the consumer. So My Pet Credentials was really in the beginning created to connect those three together, because when you leave the veterinarian, they give you a copy of your vaccination records. Technically, you are not the one that needs that copy of the vaccination records. Whoever you do your business with your dog, whether it's a groomer or a boarding facility or a trainer, those are the people that need the vaccination records, which are never automatically sent anywhere, although people think that they are. Right. They get lost in the shuffle, and we end up having to call a veterinarian, and the veterinarian sits on hold, and it's a problem in the industry in general.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's probably the biggest problem is just being on hold. Just imagine being at a pet salon and your vaccinations aren't current. The receptionist has to call your vet, or you have to call the vet. It's very time consuming, not to mention it's frustrating.
Oh yeah.
So we wanted to try and connect all of those 3 entities in real time. If the vet updates something in My Pet Credentials, the pet salon gets notice of it, as well as the consumer in real time, as long as that consumer has authorized that pet salon or that veterinarian as an authorized veterinarian or an authorized pet salon.
Right. I mean, the top of the food chain starts with the veterinarian. Even if you think about traveling, say you show up to a boarding facility on the weekend, you're headed to the airport, you don't have your vaccination records, and your veterinarian's closed. Yep. Well, you're out of luck. You're just not going to be able to check in. Not to mention the fact that if you travel with your pet, then the airline is going to need your vaccination record. So all that starts with the veterinarian entering that information into your profile, which is pretty straightforward. A veterinarian uses it for free. It doesn't cost them anything to do. Mm-hmm. So it's pretty easy for them to log into mypetcredentials.com and create themselves a veterinarian profile, which will allow them to as much as take reservations for their customers that use My Pet Credentials. In addition to, when they leave, they put their vaccination expiration dates and any notes in there, and it creates a paper record automatically in that customer's app, so they can share that paper record.
Yeah. So let's talk about an example of that.
Okay.
So if a pet owner creates a profile, And then they go and they authorize their veterinarian. That veterinarian has to accept that authorization first,
Correct.
right? And a veterinarian can't become a veterinarian in our system unless they're approved. We look up their license, we make sure the license is valid, they're a real veterinarian.
Right.
Once that relationship is established, then the consumer can send the veterinarian a request, hey, can you please update my pet's vaccination records?
Right.
Or the pet owner can upload those records themselves.
Right.
So when a pet owner uploads those records, all the vaccinations are tagged as not verified because it was uploaded by the consumer. It's telling a pet salon, whoever is looking at that record, pay close attention to the record. It's not verified. But as you're saying, Jeff, when a veterinarian updates the records, all they have to do is put in an administered date and an expiration date for a vaccine, and then our system creates the paper record. There's
Correct.
nothing to upload. Once that paper record is created, it sends it to the consumer within their portal. They get notification that, hey, your veterinarian has updated a record, and any pet salon you have authorized will receive the same notification. So everybody's on the same page at the same time. You may not be going back to your pet salon for 6 months, 3 months, but they now have been notified that your records have been updated.
Right.
So that's the connectivity that you were talking about earlier.
Yeah, I mean, even this week, I had my 2 dogs. I have a mobile vet that comes to my house, and she's not on NPC yet. But when she did the vaccination records this week, I went in and updated their board of televaccination dates, and it forces you to upload a record. You have to have a record to put those dates in there. So I uploaded the record in there, and then when I went to the doghouse this morning, I just double checked. And the receptionist went into my pet credentials in their portal, and there was the record that I uploaded into my app. So
Right.
it was pretty seamless, And if for some reason, your vendor, be it the trainer or your dog sitter, whoever doesn't log in, you just tell them, hey, I updated them in NPC. You can log in and see them, so they can update them on their end. So
Right. And, also for the consumer, we're not talking about just vaccination records either. AKC certificates, those can be stored in there under a special place. Rabies certificates, which are important when you talk about licensing with cities or municipalities.
Right.
So there's a ton of things the pet owner can do in there, even keep their dog's grooming profile.
Right.
Some people go to different groomers at different times of the year or different states for whatever reason, and they're like, I don't know what the real profile is that my previous groomer uses. That can be stored in there.
and you could send that request to the groomer through NPC. And the groomer can fill out the profile for you, which is the industry standard of what the profile, the acronyms that you probably don't understand, are
Right.
in there. So when you update that, it'll keep those profiles in there. So in the event that you are out of town or you move or what have you, you can share that information with your new groomer, and that other groomer speaks the same language. Will know exactly what they did the last time they were there. In addition to keeping the history of all those things, all the vaccination records that you input there, or the vet inputs, or any of that, keeps a history of all those records. So if you had to go back and look at an old record, or if you transferred the ownership of that dog to another person that had an NPC profile, all those records would transfer there, as well as if you move and go to a new vet, you can transfer those records to the new veterinarian, and they'll have all the history that you've put in there since you've had it to the new veterinarian. So there's no skipping around if you've been to 2 or 3 different veterinarians.
Yeah. You talk about a lot here. So you just mentioned transfer of ownership, which, is a big thing. You can actually, like you said, I'm giving my pet to somebody else, or somebody is adopting my pet, or I'm in an apartment and they won't allow me to keep my pet anymore.
Or if you're fostering.
Or if you're fostering for a shelter,
Right.
and somebody wants to adopt that pet. There's a button you hit, just transfer of ownership, and all you do is put that person's email address in.
Right.
It will then send that person an email. If they're already connected to MPC, they just accept it. If they're not connected, it would allow them to create a profile through a link, and all of those records that you have in there, AKC records, all your old medical records, vaccination records, everything about this dog gets transferred with the click of a button.
Right.
So you can imagine shipping a dog across to another state, right? From California to New York. You don't even have to send the records with it anymore.
Right.
You transfer ownership, and then you ship the dog, and they have
Electronically,
everything
instantly. Yeah.
So it's pretty cool that we know what's in there, but the consumer should go and try it out, download it, play with it, and really understand how it helps you manage your dog's daily lives.
Well, even on the vaccination piece, back to lost and found even. Say you have a collar or a tag of ours that identifies your dog and somebody finds your pet and they click that QR code or put in that identifier number and you go in there and see the picture of the dog. They will see the picture of the dog they found, all of its characteristics, brown eyes, what color it is, size, all those things. And then at the bottom of that, it'll have the most recent vaccinations that are in the system. So you know that the dog is vaccinated. So not only are you going to find the pet, but the person that finds the pet knows that the dog has been taken care of, and can reunite them back to their home.
Right. So let's talk about lost and found. One of my favorite subjects to talk about, right? You and I talked some time back. Our mission was to let's try and identify every single dog that's lost, right? Whether it has a microchip that's not registered, rabies tag, or just a name tag on. So if a dog gets lost, Jeff, so let's say there's a hurricane, right? And 3 dogs are found. One has a microchip, one has a name tag only, and one has a rabies ID tag, right? I don't know of any other system that can identify those dogs and get them back to the owner quickly, other than my pet credentials. So if it's an outdated microchip, whomever finds that pet can create an account on my pet credentials and put in that microchip number.
Yep.
As I'm fostering, I found this lost dog, I'm keeping it until somebody notifies me. The person who lost that dog, who says my dog had a microchip, can go to npclost.com, put in the microchip number they knew their dog had, and it will come up and say, is this your pet?
Right.
Give all the identifying characteristics, because the person who found the pet can put in the color, take pictures of the dog, everything, and they can say, yes, that's my pet, click a button, and be immediately in contact with the person who found that dog.
Right.
Same as a name tag. You can create a name. Dog has Fluffy on its collar. It's okay. Put in Fluffy in the name tag. Nobody else can use Fluffy. It's one identifier for one dog. Right. So if somebody lost Fluffy, they can go to npclost.com, where it says name, put in Fluffy. It'll say, is this your dog? So it's an incredible thing I believe we've created to take situations like that where people can find dogs, and people who have lost the pets know that she had a name tag on. She had a rabies ID collar on. We can use those things to create profiles that can connect people with their lost dogs now.
Yeah, well, a lady came in the shop this week and she had a GPS collar, and we were talking about NPC, and we have displayed some QR code tags and some collars. And she said, well, I have this GPS collar. She said, but that's only good for me to find the dog for me, not for anybody else. And if the battery goes dead, I don't have a backup. She said, so I'm going to log in and create an NPC account profile, and I'm going to buy a tag to go on my GPS collar. Yep. So in the event that the dog gets out of range or the collar dies, the backup is she has an NPC collar with a QR code. So if somebody actually finds the dog, there it is. So it's about as foolproof as it can that I've seen.
Yeah,
sure.
yeah, it is. The veterinarians and the pet salons, like I said, the whole premise was to connect everybody in real time. Like you said, Astros are playing tonight. On a whim, I want to go board my dogs.
Right.
Well, your vaccinations are right there. You don't have anything to worry about.
Right.
You can go to any boarding facility. Or, hey, guess what? I want to go to the airport. I want to get on a plane. You have your vaccinations with you. Yeah. Anywhere you want to go, you have them with you, and you're connected to your vet in real time. Like you said, it was important to mention as well, it's free for pet salons as well. We did say it was free for veterinarians, but it is completely free for pet salons and completely free for veterinarians to create an account. And then their consumers just go and they connect to the consumer, or the consumer connects to them, and now everybody's connected. No more misplaced vaccinations, no more lost dogs that can't be found with unregistered microchips. Our system takes any microchip in the world, doesn't matter the number, how many numbers, takes any name tag, and we also create an NPC security code for each pet that's created as well.
Right. Even a foster, I say a foster, a nonprofit that helps find homes for dogs, whether
Rescues,
they're fostering
yep.
dogs out or whatever. A rescue organization can go in and create an NPC profile.
Thank you, Jeff. I forgot about that. Yeah.
And they can catalog every dog that they have up for adoption, create a profile for them, put their vaccination records in. Whoever's fostering it doesn't matter really. You can do it numerous ways, but if they want to put all those dogs in there, when somebody adopts the dog, the individual just has to go in and create themselves an NPC account, and the adoption agency or the kennel or whoever can transfer the ownership to the new owner with all the vaccination records. So when that person goes to their veterinarian, they have the history of the dog there, at least as much history as we have.
Yep.
In addition to the microchip number and all the identifiers and the rabies tag and all those things, so that when they go to the new vet, and realistically, the new vet could just fill out a profile for himself and then connect back to the consumer.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, I'll make one more point on the lost and found, because we have the QR codes, we have some identifiers. If your pet was lost and was found by an animal shelter or a city person, a city worker working at the city shelter or something, they could scan that QR code and your pet would come up. They could literally send you a message right there that says, hey, I'm with the city of Houston, just found your pet. Your pet's going to be at this location. I am headed there now to drop him off. And that consumer immediately gets a text and an email.
Right.
So they know immediately, oh, my dog was just picked up, rather than not knowing and having to, where's my dog, what shelter is he at, having to call 50 million different shelters.
Well, that's the
dog.
thing. Even like the shelters in the city, if enough people are using NPC and putting all those identifiers in there, those microchips are only good if they're registered, and even when they are registered, they're not always foolproof. So even if your dog was found by the city and they took them in and they were checking microchip numbers and your dog was chipped and you had an NPC NPC profile, the city could go in there and put your microchip number in there or Google it, and it would come up.
That's right.
So
they can send you a message. It's that simple.
One more. We're just looking for as many layers of defense for lost pets as we can.
Absolutely.
I think we've got about as many as you can get.
Yeah. Well, we're constantly thinking of others too. So the point is to identify every lost dog.
I know we've covered a lot about My Pet Credentials today, and you probably have some questions. So feel free to send some comments and some DMs, and we'll be happy to answer those in the next episode.
And also, don't forget, we just briefly went over a lot of things that My Pet Credentials does. The website is www.mypetcredentials.com, and also the Lost and Found website is www.mpclost.com. Hey guys, we'd like to thank you once again for tuning in. It's been a blast today. We had fun. And if you ever find yourself in trouble, don't forget you can always find us
in the doghouse.